Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and keep watching more details. General Hospital Spoilers 7/5/24. Dante warns Sonny. Feelings are running hot in today's General Hospital spoilers. Maxie and Brooklyn put their heads together. Jordan offers Drew some advice. Dex and Jocelyn reconnect. Curtis makes a promise. Christina gives Natalia a piece of her mind. And Dante tries to keep Sonny from making a terrible mistake. Still trying to do damage control after the invader published Natalia's homophobic comments and blew up Blaze's career, Maxie sits down with Brooklyn to strategize. Can't take that back, Maxie sighs, even if she wanted to. Catching some rays at the Metro Court pool, Drew shares the latest with Jordan and she thinks he should seize the opportunity being presented to him. This could be a unique opportunity for the both of you, she suggests. Could Jordan be talking about Drew and Curtis? Because Curtis is eager to take control. I'm going to do everything in my power to make it happen, he declares. Now that they're on more solid ground, it looks like Dex and Jocelyn are continuing to rebuild their relationship. Couldn't be further from the truth, she informs him. Natalia wants to apologize to Blaze for the hurtful things she said, but first, she'll have to get through Christina. I have never been more serious about anything in my entire life, she shouts at Natalia. Sonny is determined to bring Ava down, but Dante worries that if he does so, he'll only make things worse for himself. You go after Ava, Dante warns his father, you lose Avery. Is there a way for Sonny to destroy Ava without losing custody of their daughter? In the bustling halls of General Hospital, a sense of urgency hung in the air like a charged current ready to strike. Nurses hurried past with charts in hand. Doctors conversed in hushed tones at the nurses' station, and the occasional beep of a heart monitor added a steady rhythm to the otherwise chaotic scene. Dante Falconeri stood at the entrance of the hospital, his brow furrowed with worry. His mind raced with thoughts of his father, Sonny Corinthos, and the dangerous path he seemed determined to tread. Ever since Sonny had returned to Port Charles after his disappearance, things had not been the same. His memory was fragmented, his demeanor unpredictable. Dante, being both a son and a cop, felt the weight of responsibility heavy on his shoulders. "Damn it, Dad," Dante muttered under his breath as he leaned against the wall, trying to process the latest developments. He had just come from a heated discussion with Carly, Sonny's longtime love, and now his wife again. Carly was fiercely protective of Sonny, almost to a fault. She believed in his ability to recover fully, to reclaim his life and his place at the head of the Corinthos organization. But Dante knew better. He had seen the signs, the moments of confusion in Sonny's eyes, the lapses in memory that Carly seemed determined to brush aside. It wasn't just about Sonny's health anymore. It was about the safety of everyone around him. The power vacuum left by Sonny's absence had already started attracting trouble, and Dante feared it was only a matter of time before things spiraled out of control. His phone buzzed in his pocket, pulling him out of his reverie. It was a text from his partner, Valerie. "Need to talk ASAP." The message read. Dante sighed, knowing that whatever Valerie had to say was likely more bad news. The life of a detective was never easy, especially when your own family was at the center of the storm. He pushed off from the wall and headed towards the elevator, steeling himself for the conversation ahead. As the doors slid shut behind him, he couldn't help but replay the events of the past few months in his mind. Flashback to 3 months ago. The night Sonny Corinthos returned to Port Charles was supposed to be a celebration. Friends and family had gathered at the Corinthos compound, relieved and overjoyed to have him back. Dante watched from the sidelines, his own emotions a tangled mess. He was glad his father was alive, of course, but he couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Sonny had disappeared without a trace following a violent confrontation with a rival syndicate. For weeks, everyone had feared the worst, until one day he had walked back into their lives as if nothing had happened. But nothing was the same. Sonny's memory was spotty at best, and his temper flared unpredictably. Carly seemed determined to pretend that everything was fine, but Dante knew better. As the party wore on, Dante found himself pulled aside by Jason Morgan, Sonny's longtime enforcer and confidant. Jason's expression was grave as he spoke in hushed tones. I don't know what happened out there, Dante, Jason admitted, his normally stoic demeanor cracking slightly. But Sonny's not the same. Whatever they did to him, he's different. Dante nodded, his mind racing with possibilities. He knew what he had to do, even if it meant confronting his own father. He pulled out his phone and dialed Carly's number, knowing that she was the key to reaching Sonny. Meanwhile, in Sonny's hospital room, Sonny Corinthos lay in bed, his eyes fixed on the ceiling as he listened to the steady beeping of the heart monitor beside him. His mind was a jumble of fragmented memories, flashes of faces and voices that didn't quite fit together. He knew he was supposed to be someone important, someone powerful, but the details remained just out of reach. Carly sat beside him, her hand gripping as tightly as if she could anchor him to reality. She had fought so hard to bring him back, to remind him of who he was and what he meant to everyone who loved him. But there were moments when even she had to admit defeat, when the man lying in that hospital bed seemed like a stranger to her. She looked up sharply as Dante entered the room, his expression grim. She could see the conflict in his eyes, the struggle between duty and family loyalty. Dante approached the bed slowly, his gaze locked with Sonny's. "Dad," he began, his voice steady but tinged with sadness. "We need to talk." Sonny frowned, trying to piece together the puzzle of his son's face. "Dante," he murmured, his voice rough from disuse. "What's going on?" Dante glanced at Carly, silently asking for her support. She nodded once, her own expression tense with worry. "There's been an incident," Dante explained carefully, choosing his words with precision. "Your men are causing trouble again, Sonny. It's getting out of hand." Sonny's brow furrowed as he struggled to comprehend. "My men?" he repeated, confusion clouding his features. I don't remember." Dante sighed, his shoulders slumping slightly. He had hoped that Sonny would snap out of it, that he would take responsibility for the chaos he had inadvertently unleashed. But it was clear that Sonny was still lost in the fog of his own mind, unable to grasp the reality of the situation. "We need to put a stop to this, Dad," Dante pressed on, his voice firm but tinged with regret. "Before someone gets hurt." Sonny's eyes flickered with a spark of recognition, a flicker of the man he used to be. "I trust you, Dante," he said finally, his voice stronger than before. "Do what you have to do." Dante nodded once, his resolve hardening. He knew that this was just the beginning, that the road ahead would be fraught with challenges and heartache. But he also knew that he couldn't stand by and watch as everything fell apart around them. As he turned to leave the room, Carly reached out and grasped his arm, her grip surprisingly strong. "Take care of him, Dante," she pleaded, her voice barely above a whisper. "Please." Dante met her gaze, seeing the fear and love mingled in her eyes. "I will," he promised quietly, before slipping out of the room and back into the whirlwind of chaos that awaited him. Epilogue. In the days that followed, Dante worked tirelessly to quell the unrest among Sonny's men, using his position as a detective to leverage peace where possible and force where necessary. It wasn't easy, and there were moments when he questioned whether he was doing the right thing. But he knew that his actions were guided by love and a sense of duty to protect those he cared about. Sonny remained in the hospital, his condition slowly improving with each passing day. The fog in his mind began to lift, thanks in part to the efforts of Carly and Dante, who never gave up on him. He had a long road to recovery ahead of him, but for the first time in months, there was hope. As for Dante, he continued to navigate the murky waters of family and law enforcement, knowing that his role in Sonny's life had forever changed. He had become not just a son, but a protector, a guardian of the legacy that Sonny had built over the years. And as he looked out over the city from the hospital rooftop, Dante couldn't help but feel a sense of quiet satisfaction. He had faced the darkness head-on and emerged stronger for it, ready to face whatever challenges the future held. Because in the end, family was everything, and no matter how tangled the web of their lives became, Dante knew that love would always be the guiding light that led them home.